Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Namaduhu wa nasalli ala Rasul al-Kareem. Viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today I'm going to translate verse 52 of Surah Ale-Imran, which is chapter 3 of the Quran. But before I do that, to see the context of this verse, I will start from the translation of verse 42 of Surah Ale-Imran. And this is the story about the birth of Jesus, peace be upon him. And there are some things mentioned in these verses which are not found even in the Bible and Christian sources. So it's very important to see how the birth of Jesus, peace be upon him, is mentioned in the Quran. So starting from verse 42 of Surah Al-Imran, it says, "And mention when the angels said, O Mary, indeed Allah has chosen you and purified you and chosen you above the women of the worlds." Verse 43 says, "O Mary, be devoutly obedient to your Lord and prostrate and bow with those who bow in prayer." Verse 44 says, "That is the news of the unseen which we revealed to you, and you were not with them when they cast their pens as to which of them should be responsible for Mary, nor were you with them when they disputed." Verse 45 says, "And mention when the angels said, O Mary, indeed Allah gives you good tidings of a word from him, whose name will be Messiah, that is Jesus, the son of Mary, distinguished in this world and in the hereafter, and among those brought near to Allah." 46, "He will speak to the people in the cradle and in maturity, and will be of the righteous." 47, she said, "My Lord, how will I have a child when no man has touched me?" The angel said, "Such is Allah. He creates what He wills. When He decrees a matter, He only says to it, be, and it is." 48, "And He will teach him writing and wisdom, the Torah and the Gospel." "And make him," this is the next verse, 49, "and make him a messenger to the children of Israel, who will say, Indeed, I have come to you with a sign from your Lord, in that I designed for you from clay that which is like the form of a bird, and I breathe into it, and it becomes a bird by permission of Allah. And I cure the blind and the leper, and I give life to the dead, and by permission of Allah. And I inform you of what you eat and what you store in your houses. Indeed, this is a sign for you if you are believers." Verse 50, "And I have come confirming what was before me of the Torah, and make lawful for you some of what was forbidden to you, and I have come to you with a sign from your Lord, so fear Allah and obey me." And verse 51, "Indeed Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so worship Him, that is the straight path." And this is the verse that I wanted to bring your attention to. That's verse 52. It says, "And when Jesus felt persistence in disbelief from them, He said, Who are my supporters for the cause of Allah? The disciples said, We are supporters for Allah. We have believed in Allah and testify that we are Muslims submitting to Him." Now this is what I want you to see. The word in the Quran is Muslim. So Jesus is asking His followers, His disciples, and they are responding that we testify that we are Muslims. It's very clear the word in the Quran is Muslim. Now just compare this with the translation of Ahmedi translator Muhammad Zafarullah Khan. He writes in this translation, "When Jesus perceived their disbelief, He asked, Who will be my helpers in the cause of Allah? The disciples answered, We are helpers in the cause of Allah. We have believed in Allah, and bear thou witnesses, we are obedient to Allah." Notice in this translation, you cannot tell whether these disciples were Muslims or Christians or Jews or whatever. But the Quran says clearly that they are saying, we are Muslims. We testify that we are Muslims. Muhammad Asad does the same thing in his translation of that verse. He writes in the translation, the white-garbed ones replied, we shall be thy helpers. Going back to the previous verses, when Jesus became aware of their refusal to acknowledge the truth, he asked, who will be my helpers in God's cause? The white-garbed ones, that is, the disciples, replied, we shall be thy helpers in the cause of God. We believe in God, and bear thou witness that we have surrendered ourselves unto him. So these words are confusing, ambiguous. They could mean anything, whereas the Quran is very specific. So these are all examples how the Ahmedi translators try to confuse people by using words like that, which are not the words used in the Quran. The Quran says very clearly the disciples are testifying that they are Muslims. So readers should compare this and see how many people in fact have been confused by these translations. Wa akhir dawana in alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.